What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am live again. I am live again. I know I just ended my show, but I want to come back on here and just talk about some stuff that I didn't get to talk about previously. Wait and see if any of you guys hop in the chat, if anybody tunes in or not. I just want to talk about some things. We'll see. We'll see. But I want to just actually get some content out there. And like I said, just talk about some things I wanted to talk about previously tonight that I wasn't able to really get out there. So, depending how many people tune in, it's okay. Regardless, just kind of wanted to, I don't know, maybe take like a half hour just to kind of talk about some stuff. If anybody tunes in, see what you guys are talking about, see what you guys are saying. Um, I don't know. I don't know. But when the Steelers, as this is going to be a continual Steelers topic and conversation here, they just came out. They just came out and said that they are extending Terrell Austin by 2 more years. So that's news. That's new. Really, how I feel about it is I was kind of on the fence. Whenever they hired Terrell Austin, I was on the fence of like, geez, I don't even know. I was on the fence of really just his hire, but what we saw last year and even the year before, like it just wasn't doing much for me. It wasn't doing a lot for me, that hire. Jared Devil, what's up, brother? This is an open forum, man. This is an open forum. Um, just wanted to come on here, talk about some things I wasn't really able to earlier tonight, kind of end on a high note. But Terrell Austin hired 2 more years. Well, not hired, but extended by 2 more seasons. Not sure how most Steeler Nation's feeling about that. I know for myself, I probably would like to see him go in a different direction, but it's unrealistic to think that they're going to overhaul the whole entire coaching staff in 1 year. So long as okay, you're gonna bring him back by a couple years. Yeah, man, his third down defense been killing you, dude. I know it's ridiculous. Like, especially like you can go back and look at film, you can look back at those games, and it's funny how it's just funny how fans, and not saying that we're right all the time because we're not, but it's funny how fans can go back and uh even just as the game's going on and question certain decision making, question why you have things um, the way they are in the game. Why are you set up in this type of defense? Why did they set themselves up in this type of defense on third down? Like fans can see it. Fans can see it coming a mile away, and it just makes you question why these professional coaches do what they do. So with Terrell Austin, a lot of people after the season kind of wanted him out, and I was on that fence because, like, dude, you have this million, like $100 million defense that you invested into, and you're still just having these problems the last 2 years. And even though injuries are a factor, you're still in some of the worst categories defensively when you shouldn't be. So I don't think a lot of fans care for them extending him. Like I said, I don't. But hey, if you're going to extend him, bring him back. You have to at least fill out a couple of your spots in terms of your defensive coaching tree, then, because I think he does a good job with DBs. I think that he's built that resume over his career and when he was with the Bengals and stuff like that. But just because that you do a good job in a certain role or in a certain position, um, whether that's a DB coach, a quarterback coach, linebacker coach, it doesn't mean that you should lead a defense. It doesn't mean you should take that over. So, yeah, and you're right, Jared Devil, and you're right. So, um, but yeah, that just came out as Daniel and I were talking about earlier tonight. We were talking about some of the offensive coordinator hires that they were bringing in. Um, and like I said, I'm doing this live. I don't really care how many people are in here or not because I just ended my other one. So it doesn't really like, I don't really care. Like, this isn't really something where I'm trying to attract a lot of viewers. I just want to get some content on my channel. People can always come back and watch this live stream. But we saw that they interviewed Thomas Brown, I believe his name was. They're looking maybe into Cliff Kingsbury. That was a report that they've kind of reached out a little bit. They've looked at, I don't know if they're looking at Arthur Smith or not. He said that he has a dozen teams on his list of people that are calling him. And then you also have Zach Robinson. So Daniel and I, we went to that conversation. Um, and I'm not really somebody where I'm going to sit here and give you 1, 2, and 3 in terms of who I think they should hire. I'm not going to list names. Going into last season, I didn't want Matt Canada back. I just thought he was really a big hindrance, and he was. And you can look at numbers, you can look at all those type of things as to why he was. Was it all his fault? No, but a lot of it was. And I don't know what qualified him to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I really don't. And there's a reason why he's probably not going to coach in the NFL ever again. But still, I wanted them to bring somebody in that was in a that was handling a modern day offense and that was in a good coaching tree and surrounded by good offensive minds. And hopefully that they're going to start doing that with some of these interviews they're bringing in. And we probably won't really get an answer on that till probably maybe the beginning of February. Lots of inconsistency, but the defense also takes a lot more snaps. Yes, they do, Jared Edwell. That's always a good point. That's always a good point. That defenses that you can look around the league with some of these defenses that are on the field more than they should. Snap usage or snap takes. I mean, um, right, exactly. So that's also a big play, and that's also a big play in terms of injuries and stuff like that. But when we're doing our podcast and stuff, I one of the main things I wanted to talk about was the quarterback situation, and I'm gonna talk about that right now. And Jared Devil, I can see what you have to say. I know there's only a couple people in here right now, but it's okay. If I need to repeat myself in a little bit, I can do that. Or like I said, people can come back and rewatch this. But really, how I feel about the quarterback position and what I was wanting to explain on the Unofficial Stewart podcast was that for me, I'm not impressed with the quarterback room, and nobody's impressed with Kenny. Nobody's impressed, right? I know that there's a group of people, a lot of people out there that want to see Kenny get a shot with a new offensive coordinator. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't really care to see that. And I think both ballparks are fair because Kenny did look like probably the best he looked without Matt Canada there for that one game. But my main problem is that he did not pass the eye test, and you can't put it all on the scheme. It's always the scheme, the scheme, the scheme. You can't put it all on the scheme. If there's anything special in Kenny, in my opinion, you would have seen a flash here, a flash here, a flash there of it. To me, we didn't really see that much. Yes, there was some good play in the 2-minute drill in the fourth quarter, but look at the landscape of the game. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. And in Kenny's best game, they still only scored 16. And I'm not a Kenny Pickett hater. I'm not. I didn't care. Um, right. And Jared Devil, I'll get to your comment second, brother. I don't care, or what was I gonna say? I'm not a Kenny Pickett hater. I don't care what anybody has to say. I'm not. When we drafted him, I didn't care. I didn't care if we were gonna draft a quarterback in 22 or not. I was like, hey, if they draft a quarterback, that's fine. Hopefully it works out. If they don't draft a quarterback in the first round, so be it. So they draft Kenny Pickett, and I was like, okay, this is probably maybe the best spot for him. It's probably going to be a little bit for him, but I'm all for it. If they're for it, I'm for it. I think that there's a good roster here, and hopefully they can get something there. And his rookie year, I was all about being patient and completely okay with that. But coming into this season and it's not even that I had the expectation going into, it's not even that I had the expectation in year 2 that he was gonna be a Pro Bowl quarterback. I didn't have all these unrealistic expectations. My expectation this season was for him, my expectations for him this season was for him to show me a couple things. I knew it was gonna be a struggle. I knew Matt Canada was still there. The offense was still gonna have a problem. But when Kenny is entering his full year, I wanted to see A and B. And what A and B is, I can categorize it and break it down however much you want it to be. But what A and B to me is supposed to be is seeing that, okay, there's a little bit of special here. There's a little bit of, okay, this guy could maybe be um, something. Not necessarily an elite quarterback, but he can be something. He can be an above average guy, but he wasn't passing the eye test. He wasn't showing me A, B, or C. It was, and it's not all on him either. But I'm sorry, when you're throwing 13 touchdowns and 25 starts, it's hard to have confidence in that. And when you look at Kenny, and I saw somebody kind of make this point on Twitter the other day, Kenny is currently right now maybe the worst quarterback since the merger, right? Number wise statistically, it's very bad. So the people that want to run it back with Kenny, one of the things I propose to them is this guy has to have the ultimate turnaround then. And do you really think Kenny Pickett is a guy that's going to have an ultimate turnaround? I'm not really buying it. I'm not. Also, the other thing for me is that I will bring up with them with is, okay, you want him to have another year under a new offensive coordinator. Okay, that's fair. Um, and like I said, if Kenny's a quarterback, I'm gonna support him. I'm not a Kenny hater. I don't crap or hate on any guys that are on our team. I want to see them all do well. I root for them. I support them, everything. But at the same time, you can't be a homer. You gotta be honest with yourself. You gotta have integrity about it. And that's what I'm doing. So the other thing that I will present to them is, okay, if you want to run it back with him with a new OC for this season, what do you think's the ultimate maximization you can get out of him? Is it going to be, do you think that you're really going to squeeze out somebody that's an elite quarterback in him just because you have a new scheme and a new offense? No. Do you think that you're going to squeeze out somebody that's, like I said, going to have a huge turnaround? Probably not. So you're really, what are you squeezing out? A bottom 20 where he goes from 6 touchdowns in a season to 15 to 18? Like, how much is that bringing you over the hump? It's really not that much. So why waste another year on it when I think a lot of us feel like where he is now is probably ultimately what he is maybe just a good backup. That's where I stand with Kenny Pickett. I'm up in the air about QB. Best man should get the job, whether it's KP or bringing. Oh, absolutely, best man should get the job, 100%. And I know Jared Devil, you've heard me before say that he should not just come in and be given that. I think center's the biggest need, someone to anchor the line correctly, snap the ball. Yeah, those have been. Mason Cole is awful. We all know that. I don't know how he went from last year to this year in the sense of just being so poor at snapping the football. I think he probably knows his days are done here. But that's how I currently feel about Kenny is really in a nutshell. I was fine that they drafted him. If they didn't draft him, didn't bother me, but I wanted him to do well. I was all about being patient his rookie year. I wanted to see some certain things his second year, and I haven't really seen any of that, and it's very concerning to me. And it's very concerning that he's one of the worst quarterbacks since the merger, and for him to run it back with him, if the Steelers are going to run it back with him and hope that he wins QB1, I'm concerned that you're just going to waste your talent. And I'm concerned that you're not going to get what you hope for to get out of him. But what ultimately do you think you are going to get is my question. And I don't really think it's going to be what you ultimately need to get to the next level. That's just my opinion. When it comes to Mason Rudolph, what I was trying to explain on the podcast, when it comes to Mason Rudolph is this. I don't hate Mason Rudolph. I never hated Mason Rudolph. Did I ever believe? And yes, you make a good point too, Jervel. Kenny's being injury prone is a concern. Yes, it is. And that's another thing too. Do you want to run that risk again? The Steelers know the Steelers just won 10 games with bad quarterback play, with a bad offense, and with a lot of injuries. So, they definitely have the mindset that they have a good roster, that they know they're going to have to pluck and add to it. But the Steelers probably feel like they're a team that can compete with some of these other AFC teams. So do you really want to run that back with Kenny, who is an injury concern? And like I said, that you don't know what you're ultimately going to get maximized out of him? I personally don't. And I think non-Steeler fans probably agree with most of that. And I think there's a lot of Steeler fans that are on the same page as I am. When it comes to Mason Rudolph, I don't hate Mason Rudolph. I never said one time I hated Mason Rudolph. I've said before, and you can go back on other podcasts and stuff like that from the past that, yeah, I don't think Mason Rudolph is a very good quarterback. I've said that in the past, and that I think he's a quality, capable backup quarterback, and I stand by that. I think he's a quality, capable quarterback too. My thing with Mason Rudolph is, again, I think he's better than Kenny right now. I think we all can agree that he's at a spot where he is better. But again, how much is Mason Rudolph elevating you? How much is Mason Rudolph maximizing the offense? Under a 17 game scale, how much is he going to do that? Because he played what, 3 or 4 games, and there's not a lot of tape there. You can definitely tell he's a different type of quarterback. But in terms of where the AFC currently is, if the Steelers want to get over that hump, I'm sorry, Mason Rudolph is in the bottom tier of that. That's just the reality. And the Steelers aren't going to go in a situation where they're going to go get an elite quarterback this year, or where they're going to go get a top quarterback in the draft. I know that. So you have to weigh your options. You have to read your room. Rudolph has had some growth with decision making, but his pocket awareness still lacks. He'll sometimes stand in there longer than he should. Yeah, and we know he's not a very mobile quarterback, and I think that's something that is valuable in today's league. Anybody can agree. But that's my thing with Mason Rudolph, is that Mason Rudolph is somebody who, to me, like, is a quality second quarterback on a roster, and that's just my opinion. And I think most of the league views him that way. And I think he's going to get interest around the league in certain spots. I don't think he's going to get this big contract. I think there might be a couple teams that vie for him more than the Steelers do, just given the fact of the importance of a backup quarterback. But my other thing there is, would I rather have Rudolph than Kenny playing? Probably, probably. But I don't think Mason Rudolph is a guy that's ultimately going to get this team to the next step. I don't. I don't. So that's my whole point with it. I don't hate Mason Rudolph. I rooted for him. I was happy for him. I think he's been a phenomenal teammate. I think he's a good guy, a good dude. But just because from 2019, when I felt like he wasn't very good, or he was just a good backup quarterback, and just because I still feel like he is a good backup quarterback, that doesn't mean in any way that I don't appreciate him, or I don't, or I hate him or anything like that. I'm completely fine if he comes back. I think that he has things there where he belongs in this league, 100%. My thing is, I don't think that he takes you to the next step, to the next level. That's what it is. That's my opinion. And like I said, you look at the way the AFC is going to be next year. Quarterbacks are going to be healthier. Teams are going to come back differently. Mason Rudolph's still going to be in that bottom tier level of quarterbacks in the AFC. And I'm not saying that you just need this elite quarterback to win you games or to make you competitive, but we've seen how these playoffs have gone this year, and I just don't know how people are confident in being able to go toe to toe with some of those guys. And I'm not. I'm not. That's just where I'm at. And I think if the Steelers have an opportunity to upgrade or go in a different direction, I think they should. I think they need to be honest, and they need to be upfront with themselves about their quarterback room and their quarterback situation. So, all 4 of you guys in here, what's up, guys? What's up? I knew we probably weren't really going to get a lot, given that I ended my live about an hour ago, but I wanted to come on here, welcome you guys in, just kind of end on a good note on the night. Talk about things I really wanted to kind of be genuine and talk about on here with you guys, that I didn't really get the shot to be able to do that um, on my other show. Um, but but yeah, that's where I currently feel. And if you're somebody who is a Mason Rudolph fan and wants to see what he can do, or wants him to battle out quarterback one, that's fine. That's your opinion. We're all Steeler fans here. We all want them to go in the right direction. Everybody's gonna have a different opinion, and that's just my opinion. I think the Steelers team does have a good roster, and like I said, they won 10 games with bad quarterback play and a bad OC and a broken offense and a lot of injuries. Right? They won 10 games doing that. And I think that you have talent there. I think that you can add to that talent. I just want to see them bring a guy in that's stable and can maximize this offense more so than the current quarterback room can. That's my opinion. That's what I would like to see. So I've talked to people before. You can either go down road A. You can go down road A, which road A is you run it back with your quarterback room that you had this year with Kenny and Mason, and you let them battle out in a quarterback competition, and you have a new OC, and you do whatever you do in free agency. Or you can go down road B, where you can find maybe a temporary situation where you can upgrade at quarterback and maximize your talent right now. And that can take you to the point of where you're ready to draft your next quarterback. I would rather go down road B. I would rather go down road B where I have a new OC, where I have, I do whatever I do in free agency, but I have an opportunity to upgrade a quarterback. You guys can let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And that's what I wanted to discuss. That's what I wanted to discuss on the live. And that's everything that I want to discuss. That's why I'm back live on here. And I wanted to talk about it and talk about to you guys with whatever the situation would be. So if we're going to go a little bit more in depth on what those upgrades at quarterback could be, okay, not everybody's going to agree. But I think, in my opinion, if a guy like Justin Fields becomes available, I think that's something you think about. Is Justin Fields an elite quarterback? No. Is he going to be an elite quarterback? Probably not. But Justin Fields has shown more than what this current quarterback room has. Justin Fields is still under a rookie contract. He's got to get a fifth-year option. But you can have a year or two. If the cost is good, why not take a shot? He's a guy that has mobility. He's a guy that has shown to have playmaking ability. He's gotten better in his passing game. He's had some difficult situations in Chicago. So why not, if a guy like that is available, to me, you're upgrading. Why not take a shot with that? I think that he's somebody that can elevate this offense more than what our current quarterback room can. What about Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins definitely can. I don't really get the Kirk Cousins hate. I know he's just coming off an Achilles tear, and he's going to be, what, 35, 36? I get that. But on a 2-year contract, he was the best quarterback in the NFL this year before he got injured. He probably could have won MVP if he stayed healthy the whole season. Why not a guy like that? I know that he's going to ask for a hefty contract, but you're not paying a quarterback. If you're a team that wants to win and be competitive in this AFC, I think Kirk Cousins is right up there with the rest of these quarterbacks. And I think Kirk Cousins is an easy, instant upgrade over what they currently have. Easily. And he will easily make this offense much better. I think we're only a few pieces away from being actual playoff contenders. Excited to see Khan and Whitehall's next draft. Yeah, they're definitely only a few pieces away from, I think, from getting over that hump. But that's what I mean. Like they saw they won 10 games with as rocky as it was this year. I just don't see why, if there's an opportunity there to get better at your most important position, why you wouldn't do it. So Kirk Cousins is another guy. Depending on how you have about 5 quarterbacks in the first round that are probably going to go in the first round. You're a pick 20. What if what if there's a certain guy that falls a little bit in that first round? You trade up, take a shot. What if there's 2 of them come pick 20? What do you do? That's an option. I know Russell Wilson's a guy that's going to be out there. I know that there's a lot of people where he's not their first, second, maybe even third option. But let's be honest, guys. If Russell Wilson was here last season, they would have won 12 games. Russell Wilson had a 66% completion rating. He threw 26 touchdowns to interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over. He's getting paid a ton of money from Denver. Hey, for a year or two, if he gets a cheap contract till you find your next guy, why not? Again, I would rather have that than their current quarterback room. Just my opinion. You know what's something I could see, Daredevil, or for those watching, you know what's something I could see? I could see Jimmy Garoppolo. If Mason Rudolph does not come back, I could see Jim. And if they're going to do the thing where they have Kenny and then just a guy coming in, I definitely could see Jimmy Garoppolo getting cut and the Steelers signing him to a cheap contract. I could definitely see that. And there's your quarterback competition. Mike Tomlin gets a veteran guy. He gets a veteran guy that's won games, that's been to a Super Bowl to compete with Kenny Pickett. Am I gonna say that that's the way to go? No, but I could see it happening. If Mason Rudolph moves on, I could definitely see Jimmy G coming here. But that's what I wanted to talk about, and that's why I came back on here, and I'm doing about a half hour, 40-minute live because I wanted to come on and really emphasize this quarterback situation. Because I know Mike Tomlin said in his presser that he believes the quarterback is on the roster right now for next year. To me, he didn't really endorse Mason Rudolph that much. I'm sorry. To me, saying you want to do business still isn't much of endorsement. Just because a couple of players want you to come back, to me, that doesn't mean he's going to come back. That doesn't mean that the franchise is really all that serious. Do I think the Steelers have interest in bringing Mason Rudolph back? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to come back? I think it's a higher chance he doesn't. As long as Trubisky's gone, we'll be better. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a very damaging part to this season was sticking with him for 3 weeks. Absolutely it was. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna lean more toward Mason doesn't come back and he gets an opportunity somewhere else. And if I was him, I honestly wouldn't come back. Heck no. I think the Steelers want Kenny Pickett to work out. I think that no matter who they bring in to compete with him, I think that they're going to want and hope that Kenny Pickett wins that job. I don't think they want to give up on him. I don't think they want to be proven wrong. And that's why I was saying too, like I just don't think Mason Rudolph has the trust of the organization. I don't think the organization fully believes in him. I think things would have been said differently. I think there would have been different things in regarding him. If you wanted him as your future guy for at least the next year or two, I think things would have been said differently. And that's what I was trying to get across in my last show was that. Can he come back? Absolutely he can. I just don't think that he had a big endorsement. I'm not buying into the Steelers being completely 100% sold on him. I'm sorry. That's not my opinion of him. That's just how it comes off to me, how I read it. Some people might read it differently, and that's okay. But in terms of basing things off of Mike Tomlin and what he said and what the franchise and the organization has viewed Mason Rudolph the last 5 years, yeah, that's how I come to my conclusion. I don't think Mason was endorsed that well by Mike Tomlin at the end of the year. I feel like if they really had a real interest and hope of him being their starter, I think things would have been said different. And not out of way of bringing Kenny down, but just not endorsing Kenny as, kind of the way Mike Tomlin did a little bit. But yeah, I hope that they don't just do the Mitch Trubisky route and bring in quote unquote competition for Kenny and it's ultimately still Kenny's job next year. He hasn't done a single thing to deserve it. I just don't understand fans' mindsets on wanting that. I don't. Like we're all on the same side, we all want the Steelers to do the right things and go in the right direction, but and look, I could eat my words. We could come September and October, I could come back to this live stream and completely eat my words and apologize for me being wrong. But in terms of what we've been given, what we've seen on a weekly basis of our quarterback room, I just think if you have a chance to upgrade, you do it. And that's just my opinion. And I think a lot of people agree with that. But aside from the quarterback room, man, when we look at other parts of this upcoming offseason for this team, I think that aside from quarterback, as Jared Devil said, center is a very important position. Is that something they look in free agency? Is that something they look into the draft? I know a lot of people think that Aramis Mims, the tackle from Georgia, a lot of people have mocked him to the Steelers at pick 20. The offensive line is going to keep getting better, but we know that when you have a bad center, when you have a bad center and you have to have your guards kind of make up more times than not for his mishaps, it's hard. It's really hard. I definitely could see offensive line being more of a draft type aspect to the team. When we look at the other spots, Allen Robinson's probably going to get cut. I don't see why that they're going to keep him around and keep his salary around. There are some slot wide receiver guys and guys that are free agents that thrive in the slot. I think free agency could be an aspect there. When we look at defensive side of the ball, what you can do with Cam Hayward's contract, that's probably going to need to be restructured this offseason. I think that you need to beef up the D line. Do you consider cutting Larry Ogunjobi? I know they gave him an extension last offseason, but if you're able to free up some room and able to beef up your defensive line a little bit more, I don't think that he's warranted a spot necessarily. If they keep him, that's fine. But if they move on from him, I'm fine with that too. Your linebacker group that you retold, honestly, was definitely better than what it was last year, but they all got hurt. Quan Alexander's out. Um, there's a chance to bring back Munchak. I hope they do take it. Yeah, for sure, for sure. He's kind of come out and have said that he's open to coming back if it's the right place. So that's definitely up there. You look at Quan Alexander though getting injured. He's torn his Achilles twice. Cole Holcomb has had a knee injury a couple times already. He had a very bad one. So that's another thing there. Are you concerned? How concerned are you about Cole Holcomb's health? Because he has 2 more years on his deal. Landon Roberts is going to be under contract again. He's obviously going to be here. But what do you do at linebacker? You keep it Holcomb Roberts and you maybe go sign a guy to kind of offset them. That's possible. You look at your secondary. Is Patrick Peterson going to be gone? He's got 1 more year left on his deal. Are you going to move him to safety full time? Are you going to try to rework his contract? I think he's a good guy to have there. I think he's a good mind, a good leader. Draft inside linebacker, that's possible too. You could do that in the first few rounds. Patrick Peterson. So you're going to move to safety full time and be the starting safety next to Fitzpatrick? You're going to rework his contract? You're going to cut him? I think he's a good mind, a good leader to have. He showed some good things at safety when he stepped in, but he's going to be 34. And that's not me saying that guys who are older can't produce, but Peterson wasn't really that impressive. How concerned are you with that? Keanu Neal needs to go. Worthless signing. Goodbye. Joey Porter will be there. I honestly think corner, Jared Devil, I think corner DB in general is going to be a free agent signing. I think that's going to be one of their biggest or one of their bigger cash grabs in the offseason. And there's quite a few corners, man, that they can go after. L'Jarius Sneed's another guy that's a free agent on the Chiefs. Jair Alexander's a guy that's not happy in Green Bay. Yeah, I would too. I would too. Levi Wallace, he's probably gonna be a casualty. Who's another corner free agent? Jalen Johnson that the Steelers have been linked to is a free agent. Those are 3 guys right there. So I think the Steelers definitely could have one of their bigger signings be a DB or a corner. What about CJ Gardner-Johnson? He's gonna be a free agent, safety spot. DeMonte KZ, you gonna keep him at strong safety again and experiment with that again? Or what if you move him into the slot? He did it with the Falcons. What if you do that? I think those are some things to think about. But I think free agency wise, I think DB. Steeler Lee, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you, brother. We're just doing a live stream here, just talking about this upcoming offseason. Right, right. I agree, Jared. I agree. I don't think KZ is really the ultimate answer there. And it's not that they need like all these all Pro Bowl guys. It's just you need guys that are, I don't want to say just do their job. It's kind of cliche and cheesy to say. You just you need, and I like kind of KZ's attitude and he's a hard hitter and stuff like that. But you need guys that are dependable. And you've seen KZ get burnt and uh a handful of times back there, and your corners other than Porter aren't dependable. You have your injuries at linebacker, so there's really some things there, some concern to really um, talk over, and that's what I'm saying. When you're the Steelers defense, who's supposed to be they're supposed to be a great defense. In the last 2 years, they've been very underwhelming. That's a problem. That's a problem. Guys, having Hayward and Minka and Watt there, your defense should always be top 10. Should always be a top 10 defense. In the last couple of years, it has not been. Wish we could bring back Edmonds to relieve Minka. Edmonds is a free agent. Maybe they give him a call. So, yeah, I think free agency guys, I think free agency is going to be they were a good tandem. They were. And Edmonds, I think, was definitely overhated here. Like Edmonds wasn't really he wasn't special, but he was a capable guy next to Minka. And sometimes even though this you could think the Steelers upgraded that spot, sometimes it's not just about talent that you put there. You need to be able to have that chemistry. You need to be able to have that where they can play off of each other. And Minka wasn't really able to be in his position either this year. He was always up with the linebackers a lot. So he wasn't really even able to really patrol the safety spot a lot this year. But I really do think, guys, I think DB is going to be where the free agent target is at. I could really see the offensive line being more draft based. I really could see that. Yeah, yeah, and it was the round he was picked, Daredevil. You're right. You're right. Let's say Evans was picked in the second or the early third round. I think there definitely would have been a different narrative. There definitely would have been. There definitely would have been. So I've even seen a couple times people have mocked a corner to the Steelers in the draft, but I think if there's an opportunity there, unless it's a real good corner they can't pass up, I think if there's an opportunity there to really beef up your offensive line in the draft, I think you do it. I think you do it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I'm excited for the Steelers offseason, man. I do think this is their biggest offseason in a long time. I'm still just concerned that they're gonna play it safe. And I know they have Omar Khan, and I know they have a new set of management. I'm just still afraid they're just gonna play it safe in the free agent realm, and even in the quarterback realm. Really, I am. Like I'll be honest with you guys right now. If the quarterback room is Kenny and like a Jacoby Brissett or somebody, I'm gonna be very, very disappointed. I'm gonna be very, very disappointed. Because really, outside of some of the names at quarterback I mentioned, they're not in a prime position to really draft somebody unless they massively trade up. But like, if you're gonna get Kenny true competition, the way Mike Tomlin said, who are some free agent names that really could push him outside of maybe a Gardner Minshew? You know, like I did mention Jimmy G. I could see him getting cut, and they do that route. Not saying I would do it, but just because he's won games, he's been to a Super Bowl. I could see them doing that, and he gets a cheap contract. I could see it if they don't bring Rudolph back. I could definitely see it. What do you guys think? If Kenny's handed the job, I'd be mad, hoping for an actual, yeah, 100%. And I think Tomlin really said, Jared Devil, I think we all can agree that the things Tomlin said at the end of his presser is really what everybody wanted to hear, that they were going to go outside the organization. They were going to hire outside the organization at OC. They were going to be aggressive in free agency. And even though he said that Kenny's, and he did endorse Kenny, he did praise Kenny and said that they said what he said about him. Um, he did say, but he's gonna have competition, and I don't want to see it be not this nonchalant competition like what you said. I don't want it to be Mitch Trubisky 2022 all over again. He doesn't deserve to be handed the job, man. He does not deserve to be handed the job. And if he wins the job and is the starter, everybody's going to support him, right? Everybody's going to want him to do well. There's probably going to be people that are still gonna be upset or just wish they did something else. Um, but it's either gonna be bad or it's gonna pay off. It's gonna be one of the 2. It's either gonna be bad or it's gonna pay off where Kenny looks like a guy that belongs in the NFL, right? So it's gonna be one of the 2. But I don't know, man. I don't really think anybody will change my mind when it comes to my thought on the quarterback spot. I just think if there's a chance to upgrade, you upgrade. I really do. I think you have a good roster. I think you have a roster that you can uh, put up there with some of these other teams in the AFC. And I think if you can get stability there at quarterback to elevate your offense more, I think that you could really make some noise. I really do. But I think if they're going to run it back and you have your uncertainty there, you're taking a risk, man. You're taking a risk, and it could come back and bite and backfire you, or it's going to come back and it's going to win you 9 games probably. Let's be honest about it. Concerns me, especially being 25-year-old. And again, I hope he turns around. Right, Stewartly. Like I think a lot of people are wanting him to turn it around. Um, Absolutely, Ron. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely do. And that's what I was saying. That's what I was trying to say on my other live is that you have to do that. Like really your first option should not be wanting to run it back with your current quarterback room. That should not be your first option. That should not. But yeah, Kenny's attitude at the end of the season, yeah, much depending how much the story got thrown out of proportion, I don't know. But I 100% agree. Like, dude, he's going to be 26. When the season starts, Kenny's going to be 26 years old. And he's thrown 13 touchdowns at age 26. People can break it down all they want with the scheme and Matt Canada all you want. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I'm not bought in. I'm not. Kenny's going to have a bit like one of the biggest turnarounds of all time for the Steelers to crown him quarterback 1 in 2024 or 2025, I mean. Or in the draft, if someone falls, they need to take them. Right. And I mentioned that too earlier in this show that if there's a quarterback that does find its way to fall, because there's going to be about 4 or 5 that go in the first round. If there's one of them that start to slip a little bit that you take a shot. No matter what, they draft a quarterback. And I agree too, no matter what, that they'll probably draft one in the middle rounds. Jeremiah, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, yeah, absolutely you do. 100%, man, 100%. And Ron, I said before, I said that this was now since we have a few other people in here, I'll bring this up to you guys and you can let me know what you think. I've said this before to certain people. I said you either have option A or you have option B. Are you going to go down the road where right now you have a team that won 10 games with bad quarterback play and a bad offensive coordinator and a banged up defense? Are you going to want to go down road A and run it again with the same quarterback room and have a new OC and add whatever you want to your roster? Or do you want to go down road B where there's at least a few guys that are going to be out there that you can bring in or have an opportunity to that can elevate your offense more than your current quarterback room? I'm going option B. I'm going road B. And that can at least take me to the point where then I find my next guy in the next year or two. Similar to Connor, maybe he needed to get out of the city and be somewhere else developed. That's possible too. And honestly, when the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett, I thought it was probably the best place for him. But honestly, it doesn't really look like it is. It doesn't really look like it is. I think people are just really tired. I think Steelers fans, not just that they're tired of losing in the first round and winning 9, 10 games every year. I think they're just tired of the bad offense. I think they're tired of the excuses. I think they're tired of the Steelers just always going the safe way. And I'm getting really tired of that too because this team has talent. This team has talent and this team has a roster where I think most people outside of Pittsburgh will even agree that if you give them a stability at quarterback, they can really put themselves up there with some of these other teams in the AFC. I 100% believe that. 100%. But if you're going to run it back and you're going to take a big risk at doing that and winning 8 to 10 games and not getting over the hump, I mean, what's the point? What's the point? Because this franchise wants to win every year, right? This franchise's mindset is to win every year. So if you want to give over that hump, I'm sorry. I just don't see the current quarterback room doing that for you. And I've said before, the stuff with Kenny Pickett, with the people that want to give him another shot under a new OC, I get that, and that's fair. And like I said, if that's going to be the case, I'm still going to root for Kenny and everything else in between. I'm going to manage my expectations, and I'm going to manage my expectations for the team, but I'm still going to root for him as I have before. But ultimately, my question is that I will relay back is what are you ultimately going to get out of him with the new OC? Because he's going to have a massive turnaround. He is one of the worst, if not the worst quarterback since the merger statistically wise. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. And I don't know how Steeler fans bat an eye to that. I don't know how you bat an eye. So if you're going to bring him back, well, he is going to be brought back. But I mean, if he's going to be the quarterback next year under a new OC, okay, I get the point of wanting to see him under somebody new, given the fact of what he did without Canada for that one game before he got hurt. I understand that. I get that. But seriously, if you're going to do that, what are you really going to get out of him? Because he's going to have a historic turnaround. If you're going to get out of him somebody that's going to be your guy going forward, it's going to need to be a historic turnaround, and I don't think the chances are high. So what are you getting out? A bottom 20 quarterback instead of a bottom 27 quarterback, a bottom 28? Are you getting a guy that's going from 6 touchdowns thrown to 15 to 18? And that's not me being a hater. That's me just being real and being honest. Like, what if we had a guy like CJ Stroud? Can you imagine a quarterback of that caliber? Oh my God, I would love it. Exactly, Ron. And the Steelers are never in a spot where they can be where the Texans are at. But still, if you think about it and you find a guy of that caliber or even somebody that's an above average quarterback, heck, put Jared Goff. Put Jared Goff on the Steelers team. How good is the Steelers team? Put Jared Goff on it. How good is it? I think it's pretty darn good. I think if this team just has an above average quarterback, I think that they're going to be up there in the AFC. But like it's got like how's it not concerning? How's it not concerning for Steeler fans when you're going to go into the AFC again next year and these teams are going to be healthy again and these quarterbacks are going to be healthy again and if you have Kenny and Mason there, they're going to be at the bottom. Like how comfortable do you feel about that? I just don't really feel that comfortable. And that's not me hating either guy. That's me just being honest and giving my honest opinion. I don't think Kenny's good. I don't think Mason Rudolph is that good of a starter. I think Mason Rudolph is a good backup, and I think Kenny Pickett's probably going to be in that territory too. That's just my opinion, guys. And I know there's people out there that are going to disagree with it and want to see Kenny get a shot or want to see Mason get another shot. And people are going to disagree with my thought on it, or people are going to agree with my thought on it. I always think back to the year we traded for Minka. If we don't trade for him, we probably end up in the top 5 and maybe get Herbert or Tua. And I love Minka to death, but what if? And that's a good point too, Ron. That's a good point. And I think everybody's happy with that Minka trade, but it's a good point. And that's the thing. Like offense is a big thing in today's NFL. And if you don't really have a stable quarterback, it's not really going to look that good. It's not really going to look that good. And you look at the Steelers, they lost those 3 games in a row. They went with Mitch, right? They went with Mitch, and then Mason gave them some life, what they did not have. But it wasn't good enough. Again, it was not good enough. Because there's going to be opportunity to get better at quarterback. If the Bears decide to go and take a quarterback with their first overall pick, Justin Fields is going to be available. Kirk Cousins is going to be available. As Ron said, you're going to have about 5 quarterbacks probably go in the first round. There's going to at least be a guy or 2 that probably fall a little bit. I know a lot of people aren't on the Russell Wilson train, but I still think Russell Wilson's better than what they currently got. Would you sign Mason if you had the chance and how much? It's a good question, Ron. Would you sign Mason and how much? Let me ask you that. If I would sign Mason if I knew I was not going to go in another direction at quarterback. If I knew I wasn't gonna go another direction at quarterback, like getting some of these other guys that are out there, then yeah, I would. And it probably would maybe be like a 2-year deal, like 15 million, give him like 8 million a year or something, 9 million. I don't think he's gonna get a huge contract regardless where he signs. Because like how I'm gonna feel if the Steelers bring Rudolph back, and let's just say that they go with their quarterback room that they currently have again, right? They do what they do in free agency, they do what they do in the draft, right? Everybody's excited, but they stick with their current quarterback room. Yeah, 7-9 million. Yeah, I think that's gonna be the range. I agree, Ron. But let's say that they do that. Okay. How I'm gonna feel is I'm just gonna feel like, hey, the team's got a good roster. They'll probably be competitive as they always are and find themselves, but it's not gonna take them far. It's not gonna get them over the hump again. That's how I'll feel about it. Will I root for Mason and or Kenny? 100% because they're my quarterback, and I would wanna see them both do well. I would like to see the Steelers find themselves the next guy. That's hard to do, but at the same time, I wanna see them win ball games. I wanna see them get to that next level that they haven't been able to get to. My main thing with KP8 not only being inconsistent, but too injury prone. Steelers need a quarterback that's able to come through in the clutch and can stay healthy. 100% Jeremiah. That's another concern. The guy has had 2 or 3 concussions. He's had ankle injuries. He's had a leg injury. It's concerning, man. He's going to be 26 years old. And what's he done in the league? He's done freaking nothing. He's done absolutely nothing in the league. So that's my point is like the fans out there that want Kenny to come back under a new OC. I get their stance. I do. I get their argument. I do. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I can't get myself behind that argument. I can't get myself to be excited about that because of those reasons I've said. And then I said earlier in the show, he hasn't given me A, B, and C, even with a bad offense in Matt Canada. He hasn't given me that. If he gave me A and B where I said, okay, Kenny does this really well and he does this really well. Now, if we got a new guy in there to coach him and really get more of this untapped potential out of him, I think there's hope. I think there's promise there for him. But Kenny has not done A well and B well. He hasn't. He hasn't done much of anything well. So how can anybody like I just can't get behind the level of excitement people get with him having a new OC. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I can't get behind it, man. I can't. I really think if Mason was given the job this offseason and the offseason and the time to prepare, he could be a decent quarterback. The team likes Mason and Kenny is injury prone. I said Kenny was way too injury prone months and months ago to you, and you agreed. Yes, you did, Ron. Yes, you did. And honestly, if you guys look at Kenny Pickett's scouting report going in the draft, it's very accurate. It's very accurate. It's literally exactly what we see to this day. Yeah, and I think that Mason belongs in this league. I do. I do think he belongs in this league. I can't sit and say to what extent because we only watched him for 3 or 4 games. He's definitely gotten better. He's definitely not the same quarterback. But again, to what extent? To what extent is that? Right? To what extent is Mason? So I just can't get behind the excitement of running it back, man, with the same quarterback room. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't get excited about it. I'm gonna cheer him on, who's ever our quarterback, but I just can't get excited about it. I can't, man. I can't. Kenny's a backup. There's nothing wrong with that. No, there's nothing wrong with that. And I've said that before. Like, I don't know if the Steelers just want to make themselves feel like I don't know if they want to make themselves feel like that they don't want to be wrong. But, like, how many teams miss with their first round picks every year? How many teams have missed at quarterback in the first or second round? It happens. It's more likely to miss at quarterback than it is to hit. Mason got better for sure. They have to bring in someone if they can get a good price. 100%. Like, I want to ask you guys this. Everybody in the chat, shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, this was kind of another live stream I wanted to do. I wanted to end it on a better note on the night and really just kind of dissect and talk about a little bit of the upcoming offseason, and especially really the quarterback position, which has been, um, which is really one of the main talks of the Steelers going in the offseason. And, but really, how, like, are you guys in the chat on the same boat as me? Like, would you guys rather run it back with the same quarterback room and with a good roster? Or would you guys want to go my route that I've said, the other option, because it's two options. It's either you're going to run it back with Kenny and Mason, or if Mason doesn't come back, you're going to get some probably a relevant backup quarterback that's not going to win the job, or you're going to go option B where there is opportunity out there to get better at the position, probably not long term, but at least while you have your main stars, at least while you have your current talent until you can draft your next guy. Which one would you rather go? Would you guys rather go road A or would you guys rather go road B? I'd rather go road B. May Steph got better. They have to bring someone in. They can get a good price. I take Kirk Cousins or Fields, not Russell Wilson. He can't take on that contract. I don't want Brissett either. Yeah, and Ron, a lot of people don't really want Russell Wilson. The thing I'll say about Russell Wilson, I'm not 100% certain that he's going to get a big contract because Denver's paying him a lot of money. So even if he takes a 1 or 2 year deal somewhere, it might not be as expensive as people might think. Because Denver's paying him a ton of money since they let go of him early. So I get not being on the Russell Wilson train. I'm not really on that side either, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think he's better than what we currently have. I really do. He had a 66% completion rate. He had 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He didn't turn the ball over. Sean Payton in Denver's a little bit of a mess. His best days are behind him, but hey, for 1 year until you find your next guy, or 2 years till you find your next guy, I'm not totally against it. And I'm gonna be straight up honest. I'm not 100% against the move. Steelers Lee says, unpopular opinion, Mason is a backup, and just like most backups, the tape will eventually catch up to Mason if teams have a full year to prepare. I agree, Steeler Lee. I agree. I don't necessarily know if that's an unpopular opinion, but I agree. And that was one of my main concerns is like, yes, we can look at Mason Rudolph and what he did his 4 games. And we know for sure he brought us a spark, and he did his thing, and we all appreciate that. But my main thing as well, you can look at the other backup quarterbacks that played in the NFL this year, because it was very heavy of backup quarterbacks. And there's quite a few of them that looked promising or looked a little impressive. But as time went on, right, teams catch up. And that was my other thing as well with Mason Rudolph, was catching up. Ron says, I'd rather probably go route B, but in my heart, I really want to give Mason a legit season. After these last 4 games, he got us in the playoffs and played good. I understand that. And I don't think it's something to just look over. But also, if you're going to bring Mason Rudolph back and he's going to compete for the quarterback job, and if he wins, there's also a lot of risk there. There's also a lot of risk. Sean says, Sean, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. I'm sticking with Mason. If he stays, KP can finish out his contract and we either sign or draft another backup quarterback. Yeah. Bring in porn star Jimmy G. Yeah. I actually said that too, guys. If Mason Rudolph decides to move on and goes in a different direction, I could see the Raiders definitely cutting Jimmy Garoppolo. They're definitely going to. And I could see Jimmy G fits, checks the boxes, right? He's a veteran quarterback. He can come in and compete with Kenny. He's been a starter. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won games. I could easily see it. I feel like they screwed Mason in a way, but yeah, there is a ton of risk. And that's where I'm at, Ron. That's where I'm at. I hear all you guys. I'm not saying any of you guys are wrong, because you guys aren't. You guys aren't. My co-host earlier, Daniel, is not wrong with what he was saying either. With their current roster, they're going to they're going to be aggressive in the offseason. That's what Mike Tomlin said. They're going to be aggressive in free agency. So I think we all can sit and say they're going to improve the roster, right? They're going to spend money. They have a little bit of a new direction with their new management. I don't really want to play the risk game when I know I won 10 games with bad quarterback play and a bad OC and a bad system and bad injuries on my defense. I would rather go the way where I am pretty confident with what I'm going to get at quarterback throughout the year, and somebody that I know is going to elevate my offense more so than my other current guys. That's what I would rather do. I had my way. If I had my way, I'd take a flyer on Fields. Bigger arm, better legs, needs a new OC that can polish him. I agree, Steelerly. I agree. Justin Fields has gone through quite a few different coaches. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think anybody's saying that Justin Fields is their future or is the long-term answer. But I think if you can get him for a good deal and a couple good draft picks, I think he's definitely an upgrade, 100%. And then you can see if you want to keep him moving forward or after his 2 years are over, you can move on. I wish we had Mayfield at this point. Absolutely, Baker Mayfield's gonna be a free agent, but he's gonna ask for a good contract. If Mason leaves, we sign or draft and KP is QB 2 to 3. Um, yeah, if Mason, yeah, because that's the thing. If they're gonna bring Rudolph back, you're probably gonna have Pickett, Rudolph. They're probably gonna draft a quarterback in the middle of the draft. If Rudolph moves on, if they decide not to do it, but honestly, like I don't think the Steelers should just sit and wait for Mason Rudolph's decision, man. I think, like, hey, you just be honest with yourself, and if the opportunity arises to go a different direction at quarterback, you do it. You do it. You 100% do it. But yeah, earlier in my other podcast, Daniel and I, we were talking about a little bit of the Steelers game, Buffalo game. We're talking about the quarterback thing, and I didn't really get to fully explain and really get out everything as to what direction I'd like to go in because I wanted to have that conversation. What direction I wanted to go in, and the direction I want to see them go in, um, and also why, what was the other thing I was gonna say? Um, why I just don't think that it's 100% of a lock of Mason coming back. I don't think that he was endorsed that well. I wanted to really talk about that, and I didn't really get the opportunity, and everything's fine, Daniel and I, everything's good, everything's fine, we're gonna continue going on and doing our stuff. But I just that's why I wanted to come on here and talk with you guys, depending who was going to come in, just put my thoughts out there, get a little bit of content out there, and really dissect it because the quarterback situation outside of their OC is the biggest conversation for the Steelers offseason. I'm not giving up on Kenny completely, but I think he needs more development. Yeah, it's okay to not give up on him completely. If Kenny's going to win the battle, I'm still going to support him. I've supported him the whole time. But on Twitter and on here, throughout toward the end of the season and on here, I've just gone cold, and I lack a lot of belief in Kenny Pickett, man. Um, but I'm still gonna support him. I'm gonna support Mason Rudolph if he's the quarterback. Absolutely. Fans also don't understand what if Mason doesn't want to be here. Think about the treatment he's received by the fans and the team before these last few games. Absolutely, Steerly. Before Mason got this shot, he was looking in real estate. He thought his career was over. Mason got his shot. He shows that he belongs in this league one way or another. I don't know to what extent, but he shows he belongs in this league. But seriously, if Mason gets a good opportunity, he gets a decent payday somewhere, and he knows that there's not a straight on QB1, and it's going to depend on what his market is. Mason thought he was going to have a market last year, and he didn't, and he came back. But if Mason gets a decent payday somewhere, maybe somebody's paying him a little bit more than the Steelers, or if he just knows there's a better opportunity or he wants a fresh start, absolutely, man. The organization, nobody can sit here and tell me that the organization has believed in Mason Rudolph. If the organization believed in Mason Rudolph, they would not have went with Mitch Trubisky for 3 weeks. Jeremiah says, I would also want the Steelers to go down road B, bring in a QB that can get the Steelers next level. Absolutely, Jeremiah. That's what I bring across other people, man. The people that I see on Twitter, the people that I see online that want to just run it back or want to see Kenny with a new OC, I present these things, and I'm not saying those people are wrong. They're entitled to their opinion and what they want to see and how they feel. That's 100% accurate, and that's completely okay. We're all on the same team here. We want to see the Steelers get in the right direction. We want to see them get over the hump, right? But I present to them those things. Do you want option A or would you rather go option B? I'd rather go option B, even if you bring somebody in for 1 year or 2 years that you know is going to elevate this offense and will at least give you a little bit more time to get your next guy rather than waste another year of TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick and actually a pretty good core of guys on offense. So, and guys, who's to say that the new OC that they bring in, who's to say that they don't have a hard time with it? What if they have a hard time finding an offensive coordinator that wants to come in because they want a different quarterback or they don't feel comfortable with the current quarterback state of the roster? What about that? What about that question? I don't think people are asking that question enough. And that's the other thing too, Steerly. Yes, and I've seen people say that too, where either if it's people that want him under new OC or just people that are saying like you, if Kenny does win the quarterback one, it should not be a long leash, and it definitely should not be. It 100% should not be. Would Fields or Cousins be the quarterback, take the Steelers that next level or beyond? Jeremiah asks. I think that both of them can get them to the next level in the sense of where they actually win a playoff game. I'm not going to say that Cousins or Fields is going to lead them to a Super Bowl or necessarily an AFC championship, but I think that it's going to get them to the next level offensively, and I think it will get them to the next level in the sense of getting out of the first round, 100%. That being said, Mason wants to play football for a living, and the Steelers' Rooney's kept him on the league minimum. His best shot's right here, and I'd say he'd prepare for it. Yeah, that's what Sean says. Yeah, he took the most of his opportunity, man, and I'm glad for him. I'm happy for him. He deserves to be in the league. I'm just not going to sit here and say I'm 100% certain he's going to be on the team. I don't think so. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say Mason Rudolph's gone. If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say he's gone. It's not because I want him to be gone. It's not because I want the Steelers to go in a different direction. I'm just being honest. If somebody asks me what I'm going to put my money on for the Steelers quarterback room to be, it's going to be Kenny, it's going to be Mason, or another veteran guy that's probably not going to be much of a threat, and then they're going to draft somebody in the 4th or 5th round. That's my prediction. Is that what I want? No. But yeah, Jeremiah, I think Fields or Cousins can get them to the next level in the sense offensively and get them to the next level of consistency and getting out of the first round of the playoffs. Yeah, I do. I do. I know Cousins has had a little bit of a hard time in Minnesota winning playoff games. I understand that. But Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. I honestly think he's a top 7 quarterback. I think he's highly underrated. I think that he's gotten better with his age and as his time's gone on in the NFL. When he was with Washington and he came in for RG3, he was at that point where he was kind of average. But once he got out of Washington, stepped foot Minnesota, each year he got better as a quarterback. We can win the division with Fields. I agree they can. But see, that's the thing too, Steelers, right? Joe Burrow's going to be back. The Ravens are a game away from a Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns just had a really good year being on 4 or 5 quarterbacks. And I know there's a lot of questions with Deshaun Watson, but they have a pretty darn good roster. So if you're the Steelers, you can have a pretty good roster yourself. But again, if you're going to have that uncertainty at quarterback, that's concerning. If you're going to go into 2024 with your uncertainty at quarterback and how guy A or guy B is going to play, and you're just hoping to get the best out of them, that's very concerning the AFC. You can get away with it in the NFC for another year. If the Steelers were in the NFC, they could go in with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and a new offensive coordinator and probably get away with it for a year and test the waters. In the AFC, you can't. Because if Mason or Kenny is the quarterback, let's go through the AFC quarterback list. There are probably more at the bottom. One of my biggest questions is why did you bring back Mitch Trubisky after benching him, even though KP was injured, knowing you had Mason? Still baffles my mind. I don't know, Sean. I really don't know. I think it's just, and honestly, like this is another thing why I'm just not sold on the Steelers being 100% in on Mason Rudolph, man. Look how they've treated him the last 5 years. The Steelers are appreciative of his efforts. They're appreciative of what he's done these last 4 games. I know Mike Tomlin said that they're interested in doing business again with him, but that's not ringing it to me in the sense that they really want him back, that the Steelers organization really wants him back. I know DJ and Pickens and guys out there have advocated and have praised him and stuff like that, and that's great, but that doesn't mean that's not what the organization wants. But yeah, and Steerly makes another good point. It definitely was for money. Mitch Trubisky, when he signed in 2022, he was already given the starting job. It was not even a competition for Kenny or Mason Rudolph. And I'm scared, guys. Let me know if you guys feel the same way. Do you guys feel the same way as me that uh, if they don't really look at their options at quarterback and let's say they just roll with Kenny, right? And whether it's Mason or another quarterback, I just feel like they're just going to hope Kenny wins it. And it's going to be Mitch 2022 all over again, where it's almost a done deal. Like it's just, I have that fear, man. I have that fear. I have that fear they're just going to be lazy with it and they're just going to play the quarterback room safe. They're not really going to go out swinging. They're not going to really try to get over the hump, man. And I could be wrong. I could be sitting here right now and we can look back in September or October looking at this video and I look like a complete idiot because either Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph are doing a lot better than a lot of us thought. And I'm okay. I'm okay admitting I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to admit I'm wrong. I'm not afraid to eat my words. Given with what we've seen these last 3 years, given what we've seen on the field, I can't get behind running it back. I can't. Can't do it. And yeah, the Steelers did go 5-1 division, which is crazy. And it was funny too, Sean, because this offseason, the AFC was so played up, like it was gonna be this juggernaut, right? And I knew it wasn't gonna be because if it was gonna be this juggernaut, that means that every team has to stay healthy. That means every team has to play up to what they're supposed to play to. And that means that every team in the AFC is probably supposed to win 9 to 10 games. It's so unrealistic. And I never understood that narrative of it being a juggernaut. And going into next year, it's still going to be the same thing where people are going to say, okay, well, we look at all these quarterbacks and the AFC is healthy again and better. And you make a good point where the Steelers did go 5-1 their division without competent quarterback play and a bad offense and injuries and stuff like that. But still, like it's still concerning going into another year when guys are getting healthier and teams are getting healthier and the Steelers didn't really do much to change at the most important position to try to keep up. We'll go a few more minutes here, guys. We'll go a few more minutes. Let's be honest. We went 5-1 because Burrow was hurt. Watson's not the guy in Cleveland. Well, that's true too. That helped a lot. Burrow was hurt. Before Burrow got hurt, look how good Cincinnati was playing. Watson definitely is not the guy in Cleveland. And I think if you're the Cleveland Browns, you have a good roster. I think you're okay at your head coach. And it was impressive what they did this year. And I give them credit for that. But there's definite concern with Deshaun Watson. The guy's entering his 3rd year with the Browns, and he's only played how many games? I don't think that there's the excitement level that there should be. I think there's definite concern there. Hmm. So I don't know, guys. I don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. The Steelers are going to do things this offseason that are exciting and good. They're going to do some things that are questionable. You can't please everybody. You can't please everybody, no matter what you do, whether it's yourself, whether as a company in sports, you can't please everybody. You're not going to please every fan. I mean, heck, the Steelers could go out and trade for Patrick Mahomes, and you're still going to have Steeler fans that bitch and moan about it. You can't please everybody. You can't. But I think in terms of what I've said with the quarterback position, I think I've given valid reasoning as to my concerns. I think I've given valid reasoning as to why I'm afraid of them just running it back. I've given valid reason as to why I don't want them just to run it back, and I want them to be honest with themselves And if there's opportunity there to get better at the spot, to do it. I think I've given valid and honest reasons as to why I would go that direction. It's not a hate for Mason Rudolph. It's not a hate for Kenny Pickett. It's not. It's just being honest. It's just being honest. If I only listened to my own opinion, I never Sean, you're 100% right, man. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. That's why I like to incorporate you guys into my show, whether I'm live on my own, whether I'm with Daniel doing something. I like to incorporate you guys into the show and see what you guys are talking about and your guys' thoughts on everything. If Tomlin's truly adamant about changing things, then give Kenny true competition, 100%. And I think Tomlin will. Like I said, I do have a part of me where I am fearful that they're going to be nonchalant about it and unserious about it. But I feel like with everything Tomlin said in his end of the year conference, I think he said most of everything that a lot of people were going to hope he said. But yeah, and what I was saying earlier too, guys, aside from the quarterback talk, which has kind of really been the primary focal point here, um, I really do think that free agency for them, I really think that I think maybe their biggest signing is going to be a DB. And I think that the secondary is where they're going to spend their chunk of change in free agency. Could see another slot wide receiver that they sign, but unless a quarterback falls in the draft that they like a lot, or if they would like trade up for somebody that's there, which is probably unlikely, I definitely see offensive line being more of a draft decision. And I think we see a little bit more of defense spent in free agency. So, but yeah, we'll go a couple more minutes, guys. We'll go a couple more minutes. I was only going to go like a half hour, but since some of you guys started coming in more and everything, I mean, we're at an hour 17 here. Heck, I appreciate it. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the several of you guys who have taken your time out of your evenings to tune into the show and to listen to what I was saying. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. But yeah, really, just at the end of the day, um, really, the first move of action will be the Steelers processing their next OC, and then we'll probably start getting more into the nitty gritty of the offseason, um, with their moves and decisions and predictions and stuff like that. Because it's still only January. But I think once they get through their OC, it's when we'll kind of start seeing some more things be talked about. Because they just gave Terrell Austin another 2-year extension. How do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about Terrell Austin returning? Before I end the stream here, I'll say for myself as I wait for you guys to comment. I'll say for myself that I think I was on the fence with many of you guys and many Steeler fans where I think that it was time to go in a different direction. But I also know that they're not going to turn over the entire coaching staff in 1 year. And I think focusing on offensive coordinator is more important as long as they can fill a little bit of that defensive tree with some better guys. Cross your fingers we don't get Kingsbury. He loves jet sweeps and not using the middle of the field too. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Kingsbury, man. I was not a big fan of him as a head coach either. Now, that's not saying that he can't be a successful OC. I'll always stand by that. Just because guys do well at running an offense or a defense or coaching a certain position does not mean they should run the show. Does not mean they should be a head coach or anything like that. But yeah, I'm not really big on Kingsbury too. I'm interested with Zach Robinson. Thomas Brown, I know, just interviewed. He was with the Rams for a couple years. He was with Carolina this past year. That's a little interesting. I know there's a couple other guys as well with the Kyle Shanahan tree out there that are probably going to be up for interviews. So I think those are some focal things to look at. Yeah. But before we end, how do you guys think about Terrell Austin coming back? Any Carolina coach scares me. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Carolina's a scary situation, but um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's a long off season. I think the off season's a little too long for football. I don't see why the off season needs to be 7 months for the NFL. But the off season's always exciting. March is always exciting with free agency. April's always exciting with the draft, and then you just kind of wait till August. But um, the Steelers off season should be the biggest one in a long time, guys. Hopefully that they hit their target. TA's okay. I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. Injuries hindered him. They did. They definitely did. I think he does a good job with his DBs. I'm just not sold on him running the defense, man. I'm not. And that's not even because of here. I think in the past too, when he was with the Bengals, I just didn't. He's run executions like Canada did. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think usually once coaches, once they get their 3, 4 years in, if you don't really see that progression moving upward, you're probably not going to get it. You're probably not going to get it. So, but I'm going to end there, guys. I wanted just to have that conversation. Um, myself, regardless of how many of you guys tuned in. And I know you guys can always come back and watch it, but for all of you guys who did tune in to this live stream, thank you guys for that. Thank you guys for your thoughts and your comments in the comment section and your opinions. I always like feeding off you guys, seeing what you guys are talking about, getting your feedback, implementing that into the show. So I appreciate that. Hopefully you guys understood where I was coming from, and hopefully you guys understood where I'm at with everything. So I appreciate you guys as well giving me your thoughts and feedback on everything. So we'll see, guys. We'll see. I'm going to try to do some lives more on my own and talk about certain stuff and get you guys implemented into the show more. Um, so I'm definitely going to try to do some more lives each week, especially with this off season, because it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of stories. There's going to be a lot of rumors, and I honestly think we're going to hear about every rumor in the book. So I'm going to do that. So keep an eye out, guys, for the live streams. Daniel and I should be back next week with our unofficial Steelers podcast. It'll be on. We'll probably do my channel again, so probably be back on my channel. Um, and then if there's any other type of content, guys. But I appreciate your guys' support. Thank you to you all who follow. Always a good conversation, Sean. Always good to see you, man. Thank you all for those who are new subscribers who have subbed. Thank you all so much. I try to be as consistent as I can, guys. I know I don't always get content out each week, but I try my best. So bear with me. I'm going to try to kind of ramp that up more, especially with the off-season conversation. But thank you all so much for your support. I will see you guys later on, especially depending what news comes out and what's worth talking about. I also want to talk about some other things outside of Steeler football. I like to maybe even just talk about the league in general, talk about some other stuff. Maybe we can try to get implemented on the live stream. So just keep an eye out, guys, for everything. Like I said, we're going to do some live streams more. We're going to try to do some live streams of just my own each week, and keep an eye out for the unofficial Steelers pod as well. So thank you guys so much. We will see you guys next time.